Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I just read For the Emperor by Sandy Mitchell, and I can definitely see why it's such a fan favorite. For the Emperor acts as an in-universe book, composed by Inquisitor Amberly Vale. After Caiaphas Cain's retirement, his memoirs have been merged with some other pieces of literature and some of Amberly's own notes into a series of novels. For the Emperor is the first one of these and details how Caiaphas became the commissar of the 597th Valhellan Company of the Astra Militarum. And it also details their campaign on Gravelax, a planet that is slowly being converted by the Tau. Cain and pals are sent to resolve the escalating conflicts between the pro-Xenos and pro-Imperial forces while trying to avoid an all-out war at all costs. Things soon get more complicated, however, as a Tau representative gets assassinated, an Inquisitor joins the fray, and a mysterious cult pops up in the city's underbelly. If that sounds interesting to you, then make sure to give it a read. I think the biggest highlight of this novel by far is how it manages to be a comedy without feeling like a parody. There will be jokes and funny moments about certain factions and characters, but at the end of the day they are still portrayed in very cool manners. Similarly, there are of course many comedic lighthearted moments, but there are also plenty of emotional scenes. Some of which are wholesome, others which are actually really dark and depressing. Sure, it might be a comedy, but it always still feels like 40K. To elaborate on this, I'll give some examples. Cain himself is often described as an incompetent coward with more luck than skill. The book for the most part is written by him in universe, and he frequently mocks himself. Yet, while he does have a cowardly streak, he also shows a lot of competence when it comes to managing people. Additionally, while he has negative character traits, he is also shown to overcome these whenever things get really serious. Basically, his downsides are not just funny, but actually make him more of a rounded character. Deus Ex Machina moments are very frequently used as a joke in this book, also tying into Cain's entire luck shenanigans, but this also works the other way around. A character might suddenly come to save the day, but he is just as likely to suddenly get his head shot off. It is a war after all. People can die in very ignominious and random ways. Sometimes this can be funny, other times really damn sad. For me at least, this is the main reason why I think books such as this and The Infant and the Divine are great, while books such as Brutal Cunning or The New Lion book are very much mediocre. Tying into this, I also greatly appreciate how well this book is constructed for more veteran 40k readers. There are a lot of hints and clues that people with lore knowledge will be able to pick up on. Without giving too many spoilers, things such as the final enemy of the book, Jurgen's condition, or even the arrival of the Nits in the opening short. You can guess all of these way in advance as long as you pay attention and know your Warhammer lore. This novel basically uses your own pre-existing knowledge to build tension and to create expectations, which I thought was really cool. Of course, if you don't know anything about Warhammer lore, this is a bit of a downside, as you miss out on some of the really nice "oh damn" moments. But even outside of that, I definitely wouldn't recommend this to new readers anyways. There's a lot of terminology that never gets explained. The factions are just named, so if you don't know them, you have no idea of what's going on. Technically, there are explanatory footnotes in the book, but these are mostly just jokes and only explain some really obscure lore whenever they do actually contain information. In other words, you're going to have to keep Lexicanum on the side if you want to read this as your first book. Another thing which really stuck with me about this novel was how much more human depth this novel has when compared to many other Black Library novels. The presence of actual romance of course is a contributor, as is the depth of the main characters. But more than that, I really like the parts where Cain points out subtle changes in body language or word choice to observe the changes in relationships between his troops, or how he manipulates his subordinates into doing or believing what he wants. Sure, it's some basic psych stuff, but I found it very enjoyable to read about. The portrayal of the Tau and crew too deserves some particular praise. Similar to the humans, Cain spends a lot of time analyzing their peculiar ideology and mannerisms. Meanwhile, the guard spends quite some time admiring and talking about their weaponry and battlesuits. Seeing the humans trying to make sense of them was very entertaining, while at the same time, we actually learned quite a lot of cool stuff about both aliens. Both also just kick ass in this book, so if you're a Tau simp, you don't have to be afraid of getting Avatar of Cain here. My biggest criticism on the other hand is that some of the gimmicks get old really quickly. Mainly, the descriptions of Cain's cowardice and Jurgen's bad smell are really overdone in my opinion. I'm not even exaggerating when I say that there must be at least 100 mentions of Cain being a coward in this book, and about 50 about Jurgen being a smelly boy. At some point, the joke just stops being funny and instead just becomes really annoying. For a better example, look at Korak from the Fabius Bile trilogy. He too smells bad, and this too is used as a running gag. But because it is used sparingly, and almost always in a new way, such as with people putting on their rebreathers when they see him, or people trying to get a different apothecary to do their surgery, it still remains funny. In this book, it is just a constant stream of, "Oh yeah, by the way, Jurgen stinks, haha, lol xd." But to end on a positive note, I also appreciate that Mitchell did not just put this book in the in-universe format with Amberley composing it for pretentious reasons. He actually employs this to great comedic effect. Amberley's notes are decently funny and actually can be useful in terms of the information at times. Sula's parts, where he on purpose writes in horrible purple prose, were rather hilarious, while the parts from Logar's history book were not just funny, but also made the universe more immersive. So all in all, I think I'm going with 5/5 rogue traders, but as is the case with rogue traders, there is more that should be said about them. Look, if you're completely new to the lore, or if you have any plans of binge reading the entire Caiaphas series, that's just not a good idea. You will find that the rating is much lower for you in that case. This is a funny, witty, lore-heavy comedy meant for avid lore readers that want a palate cleanser without having to steer outside of Black Library. It has great humor, lots of twists, deep characters, very nice psychological elements, and most of all, it greatly rewards having a deep knowledge of the lore. So my advice is to do as I do and from time to time read one of these books, in between trilogies or as a nice break from the Horus Heresy. But yeah, for now, that's all I got for you today. If you like the content, please consider subscribing or joining us on Patreon. Have a nice evening, and don't forget your 90 prayers to Nagash.